I was one out of five. My father was in the United States Air Force. He started out in the all-black Army, and then when the Army Air Corps transitioned and integrated, he went into the Air Force, and he met my mom, and they had a romance, he sent for her to England, and they got married, and then it started the whole family, my oldest brother, and we went from there. And I grew up basically an Air Force brat, lived on Air Force bases, and pretty much was an Air Force family. Growing up in structure, things that other kids could do in the civilian world, we just definitely couldn't do because our father was held accountable for it. So anything that your kids did somewhere in the neighborhood or whatever, then your father sat in the CO's office and explained why he's not handling his family, why his wife is running up the credit cards, why is, all these things, they can get him kicked out. So he was very serious about making sure that we ate and that we did things and we fell in line. But I grew up in that kind of environment and then into the civilian world. And then that's when things, were a little bit different, became more looser, were a little bit more, felt a lot freer because you weren't, the grips of the federal government wasn't, around our throats in the sense that we had to be very careful as kids and stuff. So that was one good thing getting out of the military. And then my dad thought, we've been traveling around, I'm going to buy a house and retire. And that's what he did in Sacramento, California. I lived there for 38 years and wanted to change, wanted to get out of, California at the time was going broke. Gray Davis was kicked out. Arnold Schwarzenegger was brought in. I noticed that our electric bills were getting high and the rent was jumping, and I had an opportunity to come up to Oregon. I took it, and I've been here since. I had feelings when I was younger, romance, with kids. It wasn't anything more than that because, you didn't understand, all the other parts. But when I got into private school and puberty, that's where it was making its decision. And I had to pretty much, succumb to it, otherwise it was a lot of pressure. But I held it. I did, because I had three brothers, they were two of them football players, and one of them, just really into evangelism. And so I was like, where do you go? You can't say anything. And then my dad's talking about, hey, my sons turn out to be gay. I'm going to take them out somewhere and we're going to go on a hunting trip and I'm going to shoot them, And he really was staunch against it. And I was like, what do I do now? I can't talk to anyone now. There's nothing I can do. I'm stuck. And then it's embarrassing. My mom was a heavy churchgoer, and many times I tried to pray the gay away. I prayed, nothing happened. Faith healers came and shook my face around and prayed. I didn't tell them what it was, but it was a unspoken request. And nothing would work. Every time I tried to do right, my mind would go to where I think I needed to be. So it was a real struggle from junior high school to high school. My brother, having to go meet my brother in the locker room because I got to get the keys to the car because he's just finished the game, and I got to look at all these football players getting dressed. Oh boy, get the keys, tunnel vision, get out of here, quick. So like, no. I think when I hit, 23, 24, when I moved away, and then my job didn't work out, and finished school and everything, and my job didn't work out. I had to go back home, and then I was away, and my brother happened to stop by and went through my things and saw my magazines and reported it back to my parents, and then they confronted me. And by my brother, no less, who had no life of his own, to have to go mill through my things because your life's so boring. That's still, I need to, free some of that up to this day. He tries to make an effort to contact me and whatever, but I just don't have time. And I felt really betrayed. They confronted me about it. It had issues about it. It was really hard, the betrayal from my brother, to see my family switch. But there's a point when the gig's up that you have to, roll with the punches. You have to say, okay, all right, this is the story. This is what's it. And now accept me or reject me. And they were trying to get me to go to church. Here I am, laid off between jobs, and they're trying to make me impose, the old ways on me. And I said, well, I knew then that this is something that went on quite a bit with family rejection, and I knew that my community wouldn't turn me down. I knew I could call a friend, any random friend, and say, this is what's happening, my family's rejecting me, and that they would embrace me. And so I had no worries if they, this is my struggle. It's hard on me. So if you guys don't love me and understand me enough, then it's easy to let, if there's a sore pain or, in your body, you want to cut it out, you just want to move on so you feel better. And if it means eliminating my family until they come around, that's what I have to do. And I did. I disappeared. I said, my community will accept me. And if you don't, because they know what I'm going through. So I did have that support. I wasn't even afraid. I didn't even think twice about being homeless or concerned at that point. So I knew that I had strong community at the time. And it was right after the epidemic too, that was announced a year before. And so I knew there was a lot of good support out there with friends. I really give gratitude to the Caucasian gays because they're more daring and pretty much helped us come along. Because if they hadn't, we'd have still kind of not been able to find our freedom. The minute the Bible says the truth will set you free, well, I felt free. Once they knew, I was like, okay, now you know. Okay, now I can be me more, and that was really, I think when your parents and family know, you're really out of the closet. Now you can be you. In '83, the epidemic was mentioned, and I was like, and that was just when I was just starting to go to the clubs and and all that. I'm going, geez, everyone else had fun before me, and now I gotta be careful, and I was for many years. Just I didn't play, had a partner, and for about 5 years, and that ended. I moved up here. It's like I avoided it there, and I come here, and I get, it's because communities are smaller here. Things get through faster here. Versus a larger community, it takes a minute for anything to come around the pike. Where here, smaller community, things, you look around and, oh, you know them? Oh, yeah, I know them for years. Oh, oh, yeah. And they've, been unusual bed partners, in a small cluster. And so things are easily transmitted faster in a smaller community than in a larger community. That I personally found. My dad wouldn't talk to me for years. I'd call home and I'd try to talk to my mom and, and he'd give her the phone. And then when she wasn't home, I would try to talk to him, and he would because she would always tell me, talk to your father. And it's like, why don't you talk to him? She goes, talk to your father. She was always that one. So I tried, and I noticed that he just was not interested. And I said, fine, I don't have time for you. And I did my own thing, and I'd call her and talk with her, and then, now she passed away, and he drove her to the hospital, didn't take her out of the air, didn't call the ambulance or anything. It was 110 degrees, he's driving there, no air conditioner in the car. She's had the diabetic episode where it's affecting her heart. He's driving her to the Air Force Hospital down the street, and it's like, well, I couldn't even call the ambulance. But it didn't happen. She died while he was driving on his shoulder. When he turned the corner, she fell on him. And so my brother said, you guys argue a lot. It's your fault she's dead. And I go, you guys, no. Then my dad gravitated to me because I was a little bit more compassionate. And then all the other stuff. Then he started relying on me. And then we had our relationship that my other brothers didn't have. And all three of them are against her, and then they're bothering me on which side I'm going to be on, And it's like, she's dead. Let it go. Move on. And that broke our family up. And my dad pretty much, when I moved up here to get away from California, he moved up here, and then it's like, he moved in with me, and my world kind of ended a little, but it's my dad, so what do? Then he moved back, then he passed away. And then I had to fly back to bury him. So, of course, I got sick, and then everything opened up here for me. So it was like, that happened, this happened, his life in the military. We talked about a lot of things. I wish I was the type that could write things down and just remember and turn it into a story, kind of like what you're doing, because he had some great history about being in the All Black Army and just all kind. He told me, he said, when he found out I was gay, he was disappointed. He was really disappointed. And he asked me, why didn't I say anything? Why didn't I tell him? Why didn't I come to him? And I told him, I said, because of that statement, you'll take your boys out, on a hunting trip, and you will kill them. So that told me right there, whether you were going to do it or not, still that you had great opposition against it. So I wasn't going to ever mention anything to you. Figured I couldn't do it. Oh, I just do a lot of talking. Well, talk, let's see what talk did. See all that talking did? You close sewing up when you had a great opportunity to open up and get me to open up so you could at least understand who I was. But it was snickering and kidding behind my back about me being all these other, gay jokes and stuff to my other brothers and snicker. And it took my other brother to say, hey, that's not fair. He's still our brother, so he's still your son. He's not changed. He's still Don. He just, and had to bring him to that light. And he said that he kind of came around a little bit.